As our ancestors left Africa, they ventured into worlds completely unfamiliar: vast deserts, towering mountains, frozen tundras, and dense forests. Each step of migration was a gamble, a test of intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation. Small groups of humans, perhaps no more than a few dozen individuals, carried with them the knowledge of survival, how to make tools, control fire, hunt collectively, and gather edible plants. These early explorers became the first true pioneers, spreading across continents in search of food, safety, and opportunity. In the Middle East, humans encountered fertile lands along the Tigris and Euphrates. The changing seasons, river floods, and abundance of wildlife forced our ancestors to innovate. They developed more sophisticated tools, crafted clothing for harsh climates, and learned to preserve food. These adaptations were essential for survival. Over generations, humans not only survived, they throve in environments that would have been lethal to less intelligent species. Meanwhile, in Europe, early humans faced a different challenge. The arrival of glaciers during the Ice Age. The cold required innovation on an entirely new scale. Humans developed shelters, built fires to stay warm, and created clothing from animal hides. They hunted large game using coordinated strategies that involved observation, timing, and patience. The evidence of these early human stone tools, bone harpoons, and even cave art tells a story of resourcefulness, resilience, and ingenuity. Imagine a small family group huddled in a cave, firelight flickering on the walls as someone paints a herd of bison. That artois antiges decorationit was a record, a teaching tool, a connection to the world around them. Across Asia, humans adapted to tropical forests, grasslands, and mountainous regions. They discovered plants with medicinal properties, learned to track animals, and developed early forms of communication that went beyond basic gestures. These innovations allowed them to thrive in some of the most challenging environments on the planet. The diversities of tools, shelters, and hunting techniques reflects the ingenuity of early Homo sapiens. Each adaptation increased survival odds and allowed populations to grow, setting the stage for the first complex societies. Along their journeys, humans often encountered other hominin species. The Neanderthals in Europe and the Denisovans in Asia were more than rivals, they were teachers, partners, and sometimes companions. Genetic evidence shows that humans interbred with these groups, inheriting traits that may have helped them survive in new climates, resist diseases, or process different foods. This mingling wasn't just a biological phenomenon. It was a cultural exchange, a testament to the interconnectedness of early human history. Over thousands of years, these dispersed groups began to settle in areas with predictable resources. Rivers, lakes, and fertile plains became centers of early agriculture. Humans shifted from hunting and gathering to farming, animal domestication, and village life. This shift allowed for population growth, specialization of labor, and the rise of permanent settlements. The first civilizations were born in these river valleys: the Nile in Egypt, the Tigris-Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Indus in South Asia, and the Yellow River in China. Each civilization carried traces of the skills, knowledge, and resilience developed by the first humans. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast, untamed wilderness, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth, and the distant calls of creatures you'd be never seen. Somewhere in this primeval landscape, a human being, your ancestor, took their first steps, looked up at the sky, and wondered about the world around them. What were they? Where did they come from? The story of the first human is a journey through millions of years, spanning continents, climates, and countless generations, leading to the people we are today. It's a story of survival, evolution, discovery, and the mysterious forces that shape the very essence of humanity. For decades, scientists have debated the origins of Homo sapiens. Fossil evidence, genetic data, and archaeological discoveries all point to Africa as the cradle of humanity. Somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago, in the heart of Africa, our species first emerged. These early humans were not the only hominins alive at the time. Neanderthals in Europe, Denisovans in Asia, and other mysterious cousins roamed the earth, but Homo sapiens had a unique combination of intelligence, adaptability, and social complexity that allowed them to survive and eventually dominate the planet. Imagine a small group of humans living near a river or savanna. They crafted stone tools, discovered fire, and developed language, a revolutionary tool that let knowledge pass from one generation to the next. Every gesture, every word, every innovation increased their chances of survival. Early humans weren't just surviving, they were evolving, physically and cognitively, into beings capable of art, abstract thought, and complex societies. They painted on cave walls, buried their dead with care, and observed the stars above. These weren't random acts. They were the beginnings of culture, curiosity, and consciousness. Scientists have traced our genetic roots to what they call mitochondrial Eve, the most recent common matrilineal ancestor of all living humans. She wasn't the only woman alive at the time, but her lineage is the one that survived in an unbroken chain to the present day. While it sounds like a biblical tale, it's a story grounded in DNA, mutations, and the movement of people across ancient landscapes. Each of us carries a part of her, a fragment of the first humans who walked the earth, in our very genes. Fossils discovered across Africa tell another part of the story. Sites in Ethiopia, Morocco, and South Africa have revealed skeletal remains showing a gradual evolution of traits we recognize today. Upright posture, smaller jaws, and a skull capable of housing a larger, more complex brain. These bones are not just relics, they are evidence of the slow, relentless march of evolution. A story written over hundreds of thousands of years in the curves of bone and the shape of the skull. Pause for a moment. Imagine standing in one of those archaeological sites, dust swirling in the sunlight, and realizing that you are looking at the ancestors of every human alive today. If you're fascinated by these incredible journeys of discovery and want more, make sure to subscribe. Your support keeps the story of humanity alive and lets us explore the greatest mysteries of our own origins. But Homo sapiens didn't remain confined to Africa. Around 60,000 to 80,000 years ago, small groups began migrating. They followed rivers, crossed plains, and eventually spread into the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. Some entered harsh deserts, others icy tundras, and each environment posed new challenges. Humans adapted, evolved, and thrived in places no other species could. Along the way, they encountered other hominins, like the Neanderthals. Genetic evidence shows that interbreeding occurred, leaving a trace of Neanderthal DNA in modern humans outside Africa, proof that survival often required connection and adaptability, not just competition. Our first ancestors were not simply passive wanderers, they were explorers, innovators, and survivors. They developed tools from stone, bone, and wood. They learned to control fire for warmth, cooking, and protection. They created art that expressed their worldviews, told stories, and possibly recorded events. The earliest evidence of symbolic behavior, such as ochre engravings in Blombos Cave in South Africa, shows humans beginning to grapple with abstract thought. These early actions mark a turning point in what it meant to be human, a mind capable of reflection, imagination, and communication. Imagine a small band of humans standing at the edge of a savanna, looking at the distant mountains. They carried with them the knowledge of fire, hunting techniques, and cooperation, and with every step, they shaped the world we live in today. Our species' journey wasn't smooth. Famines, predators, disease, and climate shifts constantly threatened existence, but each generation adapted and survived. This resilience, more than anything, defines humanity. The story of the first humans also challenges how we see ourselves today. We are connected not only to those ancient Africans who first walked upright, but also to the Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other branches of our evolutionary tree. Every modern human carries a mosaic of DNA from these encounters. It reminds us that humanity is not linear, it's a complex, branching story, full of interaction, adaptation, and innovation.